Today on CityCast Las Vegas, we're diving into why many homeowners across Nevada are seeing insurance companies bail on covering their properties, how a 6-month dispute that led to a city worker's death wasn't stopped sooner, and why the A's aren't to blame for the newest issue regarding their ballpark dream. It's Tuesday, June 23rd. I'm Jesse Merrick, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Today I'm here with local artist and writer Brent Holmes. Brent, how's it going?
Very good. How are you?
I cannot complain. The week is off to a nice start. Jacob Solis, our creative producer, also here with us today. Jacob, what's up, man?
You know, it's going great. What else can I say?
Yeah, right? You know, look, when the week is rolling on right along, you cannot be mad about that one bit. And, you know, normally we like to start off with a fun question, but we're dealing with a bit of a heavy subject right now to lead the show off. So there's no easy transition to diving into what's going on with home insurance companies and a lot of folks here in the state of Nevada. Brent, what exactly is going on? It seems like wildfire issues kind of sprouting up with some insurance concerns here.
Yeah, so there's a big series of declinations in insuring homeowners against wildfires that is creating kind of a massive uptick in the policy's expenses. It seems as though it's attached to larger blanket insurance policies that are regional, right? So we're talking about California wildfire insurance, which sensibly has, you know, a much higher risk than here in Southern Nevada. But those prices and those policies seem to be shifted to Nevadans as well. And it's creating a lot of issues in getting homeowner insurance.
Yeah, it seems pretty concerning too, because it's like, you know, we've seen in California, you know, insurance policies going from about $4,500 a year to them trying to charge about $18,000 a year for coverage or just bailing altogether. Jacob, how do you kind of wrap your heads around what's going on in the early stages of seeing these, you know, policies declined at a faster rate now?
Yeah, some of the numbers are genuinely crazy. There's a story from the Nevada Current has that there were 2,400 applications declined in 2022 in Nevada overall. That was 13,000 by 2024.
Yeah, it's a big jump.
In some zip codes, it's like 800, 900, 1,000%. I think in Pahrump, it's like 13,000% or something stupid because so few of these policies were being declined and now a bunch of them are. So it's kind of staggering, honestly, especially if this is purely down to, California risk is high, so we're going to lump in Southern Nevada. No, actually, please do not do that.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, Brent, to you, like, I mean, it seems one of those deals where, like, why are we being lumped in with California, where the wildfire risk is very high? Is it fair to have us lumped in with it, especially here in Southern Nevada?
No, it's incredibly detrimental. We don't have enough large trees or forestry to even come close to the same kind of risk that Southern California does. Most brush fires within the region aren't going to spread as rapidly or as dangerously, and they're easily put out. So those policies are dictated, you know, again, by a regional perception, not by the actual local reality.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy to see it happening there, Jacob.
I think one interesting thing, there was one zip code that stood out to me in Henderson, 89012, because I'm kind of nearby there. It's over by Black Mountain. And in the last couple of years, because this has annoyed me personally, it's a big bugbear for me, they have been building so many homes on the mountainside, like huge luxury mansions. And now they're building like a giant like apartment complex, luxury apartment complex up there too. So like if I'm turning gears in my head, like, okay, building up on the mountain where there is more scrub brush and there's more random vegetation.
Harder to fight the fires up there too, like.
Yeah, if I squint, I'm like, okay, wildfire risk may be higher up there. But it's like, well, all right, what about all the other zip codes then? Surely it's not a problem everywhere.
The thing that alarmed me a bit is that, like, we've seen this dramatic increase. And yes, I know, again, we're talking, you know, smaller numbers in general, but an increase is an increase. And I'm wondering, like, is this the start of things to come here? Like a little bit of a test market of like, can we get away with this? Because it seems like the legislature's been like, hey, you know what? Like, we're going to let you guys kind of make it almost like an a la carte type of thing where now it's not mandated that fire coverage is in there and they're able to kind of piecemeal it. And they're leaving a lot of residents just sitting there. Some of them maybe not really realizing it or just thinking like, okay, we'll go without. But if you lose your home in a fire, you're screwed if you aren't covered or even underinsured because of the cost is like through the roof.
Yeah, it can be pretty critical. But again, maybe with Northern Nevada, these policies make sense But in Southern Nevada, we should be able to insure our homes for fire. Those are going to be, primarily electrical fires if your house burns down, right? Or accidents or act of God kind of things, not environmental.
No, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is like it's like you're playing this game back and forth of like, okay, well, the temperatures are rising, obviously winds are picking up, things like that. But like you said, more often than not, it's going to be an electrical thing. So is there a way maybe we can find a way to like meet in the middle here and piece it together where it's like, okay, wildfire, you pay a little extra for, but like the general fire that could hit your home maybe is insured? I mean, I don't know how we go about making this kind of more fair for all of us here in Nevada.
I think that's up to lawmakers and policymakers to kind of try to rein this in or assess what they can do. Although it's really hard to get private companies to adjust policies based on region.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I do think that has to be the answer because obviously, like, there's still fire risk. I mean, just today I saw a headline about a 2-story like apartment fire that had like 11 trucks respond to it or something. Like the firefighters are still busy in Vegas. Yeah. Fires happen here all the time, and so there must be some kind of answer. And I agree with Brent. It's got to be legislative to make these insurance companies take a serious look at what their policies are entail and not just sort of bulk blanket cover everything because California wildfires are so bad, which, yeah, fair.
And I mean, look, we've seen a lot of these insurance companies pull out of California because there's, laws in place that, don't allow them to raise their rates, past a certain point. And obviously, look, at the end of the day, like these are people running a business. I totally understand that. And I'm also speaking as someone who lost a home in the California wildfires and the Thomas Fire back in 2017. My family lost their home there and it was a brutal thing dealing with being underinsured, trying to rebuild. It was a process that took 8 years. So like, this is something that hit home to me, but there's gotta be some happy medium here to figure it out to where like, okay, again, here in Nevada, they're trying to figure out a way to keep these insurance companies here. Because if they leave, then we're kind of screwed as well. Because it's like, okay, well, where are you going to get your insurance? But then also, how do we make it, make sense for everybody involved? I think that's the greater thing here. But then I also wonder for the folks from California or these places that people that are just trying to move to Vegas or Southern Nevada as a whole, could something like this scare them away? Because, for me, had my family decided to move from California and come here, they're going to be worried if they can't get insured by fires because that's obviously something that hit home for them too. So I wonder if this is going to be something that could stop people from moving here, and does that hurt us more in the long run as well?
I mean, I don't think you're going to stop anybody from moving to Southern Nevada. We've got a real uptick in popularity right now, especially in Las Vegas. But it is going to make life financially more difficult, and it is going to affect families and communities without solid insurance policies that can be maintained. We're going to have multiple problems,
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest point of comparison is maybe Florida and, looking at hurricane insurance policies out there. There's plenty of insurance companies that have just straight up said, no, we're not insuring it. Like if you're like below X water line or whatever, they're not going to insure you. And it has become an issue for Florida, though it's one of those things where there are plenty of people who still want to move to Florida. There's a lot of things that are appealing between the weather, the taxes, you name it. Nevada has a lot of those same things going for it, right? So it's this push and pull, like Brent said. There's plenty of reasons for Californians in particular, but lots of people to move to Las Vegas more than anywhere else. The real question is, how bad does this have to get, in my view, before that calculation starts to shift? I think we might be starting to see it in parts of Florida. So what's that threshold look like in Vegas? And I'm not sure we know what the answer is yet, but I don't know that I want to wait around to find out how bad it needs to get before it's an issue.
Yeah, something needs to be done now to slow that down because we don't want to find out. And maybe that is more things like, a fair plan like they have in California that's, funded by the state or at least implemented by the state and funded by the insurance companies in some way, shape, or form. That seems like a happy medium to provide partial coverage. But who knows? Only time will tell how this wraps up. But obviously, hoping that a lot of folks don't get impacted by this. Because that's a scary thing when you lose a home trying to rebuild. When you're underinsured or don't have insurance at all, that's something that could be crippling for folks who then just lost a home and lost damn near everything they own. It's a sad thing to deal with for sure. All right, let's keep it moving. More heavy stuff. Today's one of the rougher shows in terms of dealing with some real heavy material here. Jacob, there's a tricky situation going on with the city. A pair of workers that kind of got into it. Someone ends up getting shot. It's like an ongoing ordeal. What the heck is going on, and how did this thing last so long?
Yeah, this is a tough one. So you probably have heard at this point that there was we'll call it a conflagration between two city employees, both for the Public Works Department, Bryson Kim and Joey McLean. Kim shot McLean, and now McLean is dead. And Kim has been booked on an open murder charge. And in the days since this happened early last week, a lot has sort of come out, and I think it just keeps rising to the top of people's minds. So, real quick, these two had apparently been feuding for months at the same job site. Kim alleges, this is all alleged, we don't know anything, I'm just going to put the disclaimer here.
He said, she said, yeah.
Yeah, so this is from the police report, this was reported by News 3, that Kim said McLean was like pulling pins on work trucks so that the tailgates fell off, and that he repeatedly did this. This escalated apparently until recently that Kim says that McLean threatened his life. And so the day after that happened, they got into an altercation where witnesses say Kim punched and kicked McLean before shooting him and killing him. Now, the real question here, and what came up today in a story from the View Journal, is why did Kim have a gun in the first place? And the real answer is we don't know. So that we'll just jot that down, I suppose. But technically, it is legal for city employees, even if they're not cops or marshals or things like that, to have a weapon if they have a legal concealed carry permit. And really, there's not anything the city can do. And so now the question is, well, what should the city have done? What was the proper HR procedure that would have prevented someone from dying? Because that's ultimately what happened. And so I guess I'll leave it there, because now, I mean, as this court case continues, I'm sure we're going to find out more about what the city knew and when and why that matters.
Yeah, no, it seems like a really tricky situation overall. Obviously, feel for, the family of the man who's been shot here. But how does something like this go on this long, Brent? I mean, it seems like it was a 6-month-long process with multiple HR violations filed, and things like that. So, like, they were aware of the situation. How does it get this far? I don't know how someone doesn't step in and stop this thing sooner.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see what comes out in the findings via the court case, and whatever the city is willing to reveal as this gets through procedure. But I mean, it's super apparent, right, that somebody somewhere along the line wasn't doing the due diligence, or that there may be some kind of shortfall or gap in how human resources is being run in the city of Las Vegas. And we can't say for sure, but a 6-month feud between employees, you separate them, this isn't rocket science, right? This is normal, policy. You should be able to say these two have a problem, get them separated, or if the problem is boiling over and one individual is more at fault than the other, you terminate one's employment. That might not prevent somebody from still, taking a violent tract, but it's pretty tragic that there seem to have been warning signs throughout the course of this dispute that weren't addressed appropriately.
Big time. I mean, the man who was shot had just come off of administrative leave for, I think, 15 days. But there were, at least in the reporting of this by the RJ and a lot of the folks that were on this story was saying that at one point he followed Kim home and even used the gesture of shooting him with his finger as a gun. And it's like, when something like that doesn't happen, how do you not step in much faster? Again, I know the plan was to separate them and have them work. I don't know if it's different shifts or just change their work location so they're not working with each other. How does that not come to fruition now at that point? That's what's wild to me, is that if someone does something like that, very clearly a threatening action, there's no way this is going to get any better. So why are you dragging your feet?
Yeah, and I do wonder to what degree this is simply the nature of the way that governments work as workplaces. I think, fair play to governments. They're giant, machines. They have a lot of moving pieces, but they're very slow, famously very slow for a lot of things. And I think this is a really, I mean, look, we don't know, right? We're going to, like Brent said, like you've said, Jesse, we're going to find out a lot in the next couple of weeks and months, both as the city looks through stuff. Mayor Shelley Berkeley has said they're going to leave no stone unturned. So we'll see what that shows. But it's just tragic, right? That clearly this got really bad based on the facts that we know already from police reports and from reporting that we've heard so far. So it just boggles the mind that HR couldn't have separated these two dudes who were clearly at each other's throats, sooner than this tragedy had to happen. So it's just, it boggles the mind.
Yeah, and I mean, look, HR experts, none of us are here on this panel, let's say that, but common sense experts, I think we can all say we've got that for sure. So is there like a hard line that you draw in the sand where like, again, it does like, hey, here, this happens, or if there's any sort of threat, separate it immediately? What's the solve here to fix things like this from happening in the future? Because you never assume someone's going to go and shoot another coworker, obviously. But when there's, tensions rising, there has to be some sort of protocol that it's like, there's no way that this slips through the cracks to get this bad, right, Brent?
Yeah, but I mean, these things happen all the time in government and outside of government, right? Interpersonal disputes are incredibly difficult to regulate for companies, corporations. And, as Jacob was saying, bureaucracy be bureaucracying, right? And that means a lot more molasses. Who knows what kind of workplace they were generating for each other, but then who also knows what was happening behind the scenes, out of office, out of work. I don't know how you get so mad at somebody you work with that you want to shoot them, rather than just quit your job, or I don't understand that. But I mean, I think that if they have managing supervisors, there should be an apparent point where you just say, this is impossible. We can't have these two people communicating with each other at all, and that didn't seem to happen. I don't know. It's pretty sad. I mean, the mayor's apparently, working real hard to figure all of this out, but hopefully this generates a change in the way the city runs, multiple angles of their human resources.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm locked in on the why did he have a gun question, or I guess why did no one else think that he had a gun? Like, because, okay, if he was a concealed carry holder, if say he legally had that gun and he was legally carrying that gun at his workplace as a concealed carry weapon. Okay, did no one know that? Did HR not know that? Did HR not think that this was even a possibility of a thing that could happen? Because, like Brent said, workplace incidents happen all the time. Interpersonal conflict happens. So it's like, if they thought that this was a possibility, surely they would have acted sooner. I think that they didn't spoke to the fact that they weren't that concerned that actual violence was on the table, clearly wrongly. And so the problem here, though, is, the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment. Like, what the city government can't really do much. Like, when the Supreme Court has frankly ruled, every time they can, against governments regulating these specific kinds of firearms, the kinds of handguns that are used in these kinds of crimes. And so, gosh, I don't know. I don't know how the city solves it other than there clearly has to be some kind of better communication involved. Or, I mean, there's always the risk of something similar happening again, whether or not it's in government or in the private workplace too.
Yeah, to your point there, Jacob, I think like there has to be some awareness of like, okay, this particular individual has a CCW, that is his right to bear arms, but that also needs to be factored into the HR equation if there's tensions rising and stuff, because that can be an escalator for sure. We've seen studies of when people are armed and aggression and all that different stuff. And so it's like that should have been factored into everything. And hopefully it will going forward to prevent stuff like this happening in the future. Okay, so we're closing on a high note here, guys. We hit the heavy stuff. Let's talk a little bit of sports, mix in the A's. One of our favorite pastimes, bagging the A's. But in this situation, it sounds like we're not actually needing to do that because there is a new wrinkle in their whole stadium story, and it doesn't involve them. It's their property manager, or their property partner, that is, Bally's, who's not quite actually holding up their end of the bargain here. The stadium itself is still on track, but Bally's, which was supposed to build 2 hotel towers and a casino alongside the ballpark, doesn't have the financing in place to do it. And the LVCVA's Steve Hill has given them until August to get a plan together. So they got to get their act together quick here. And the potential impact for the A's here is that without Bally's construction keeping up pace with the stadium, the team is now looking at having to build a temporary 1,500 stall parking structure out of pocket at a cost of anywhere from $60 to $100 million. On top of that, they'll also need to cover a central utility plant and a makeshift plaza and entrance for fans as well as part of like the whole experience heading to the ballpark. And the overall price tag on the stadium obviously keeps climbing. We've been keeping tabs on that. What started as a $1.5 billion project is now sitting at around $2.1 billion. And hidden in all of this, Hill says the A's will likely use all $380 million of available public funds, which is up from the initial expectation of $350 million in public money that they need to use. So obviously that's the impact there. We don't like seeing it, but it seems like the A's are getting screwed by Bally's there, which brings up a bigger question because parking is kind of the big issue here, and obviously the entrance to the stadium. But should these projects do more to bring in their own parking rather than just kind of like relying on the casinos, and things like that for parking? Obviously, we see at Allegiant Stadium, they have minimal parking, but mostly rely on people walking over from the Strip. Is that something that's okay to do, or should they have more plans to build more parking on site for things like this?
I think they should get it together. I mean, I think that the rug is pulled out from under the stadium because they can't rely on their casino partner is kind of unfair. They should have pre-planned for parking no matter what the scenario. I mean, I'm excited to see the baseball stadium come up. There's a lot of good that's going to come from it. A lot of interesting events and beyond baseball that are going to occur. But this should have been in the bag. And I understand I don't understand how corporate partnerships work and fall through like this. I don't know how that happens, right? What is that? But also, why are we always talking about parking in this damn town? We live in a desert.
That's so true.
There's we should never have parking issues. But hey, that's me. I don't know.
Yeah, this one just boggles the mind because you'd think it'd be so easy. You'd think it'd be so easy to just find parking on the Strip at this point because there's a parking lot everywhere you look. And yet, I mean, to your point, Jesse, Allegiant Stadium, they built without really a parking lot, which is crazy. If you go down to park at Allegiant, it's just this like tiny, dinky, fenced off little thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what do you mean there's not a parking structure? Like, how hard could that have been to build? This thing cost almost $2 billion. Surely we could have reserved a little for better parking. But no, apparently. And so that we're in the same situation with the A's, I guess doesn't surprise me. But it's just, I don't know. You go to LA, for instance, a city where everyone has a car and you can't find parking because it's all street parking. Vegas does not have that problem. Vegas should not have this problem. We are not like living with the sins of decisions that were made 70 years ago and where buildings are and that kind of thing. So if that's the case, why are we here? It's just, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, we talked about it on the podcast recently. We were just talking about like housing and things like that. I mean, we've got 82,000 acres of empty lots within the metro area of Las Vegas. We literally have the same size of empty lots as we do the area of Henderson. You know what I mean? So like, that's just crazy when you put in perspective, like how the hell can we not figure out this parking situation? 1,500 stalls for parking does not seem like enough. I'm no expert in that, but God, that's, for a stadium that's going to seat in a whole lot more than that. And I understand relying on the casinos and stuff. And look, that infrastructure is already in place, but it just is a tricky situation. And again, you're dealing in an area that doesn't have the greatest walkability as well. So like, got to solve something there. But obviously, too, how do we get this far and Bally's doesn't have the money yet? I mean, and now they're setting a deadline for August. Like, it's almost July, So if they don't have it now, I don't know how they're going to get it then. So it just seems like this is going to be a really sticky situation going forward. So let's live in a reality here where maybe we punt on Bally's and they're not involved in this. How would you guys go about solving this problem? If you could put, and this is the fun part of it, like if you could put anything there to work alongside the A's stadium, what would it be? Taking into account that they do have the casino licensing and everything like that too, what would you love to see a part of this whole project that is kind of becoming like the ballpark district?
Well, hear me out. Parking lot casino. What if we combine, like we're doing a drive-in movie, we're doing a drive-in casino, but it's a parking lot. So best of both worlds. You can hit the slots on your way to find that parking stall for your A's game.
That would be great. I just picture, drive up to the slot machine on the way by, cha-ching, or, whatever the lost sound is, and you keep driving.
Isn't that how it feels already going into any parking garage on the Strip? Is you're already spending $20, right? I mean, at least maybe you'll get a payout at the end of this one.
That's fair. Yeah. Brent, what would you do? I mean, that's a pretty damn good idea. I don't know how we're going to follow that one up.
Why not just turn the entire upper deck into the parking lot and the nosebleed seats? We can just pull the cars right in there. We haven't actually built the stadium yet, so we can make some rearrangements, right? And just keep stacking it. I think that would be really good for innovative, unique. It's pretty silly, especially because they have a really good example right on that street, right? Like the Thomas and Mack Stadium's been there for decades. And we don't have that issue. That's the first real functional stadium the city had outside of maybe Cashman Field. And there's no parking problems there. That this hasn't all been planned and pointed, but I don't know. I'd like to see let's let cars take over the entire structure. That's what I think. It would be really fun.
It'd be like one of those, what's that, Carvana tube, where they all park in and maybe make that part of the decorations. That could be its own deal where you combine that. My mind initially went to figure out a way to do like some sort of sports themed casino. But I think I like Jacob's idea better. And so let's combine the things again, like make the cars a part of it. Maybe you get some crazy structures where they pull in and it almost is like a weird loop or something like we see down at Ferguson's, the gigantic, what is that the semi truck. Yeah. Make it something like that, find a way to make the car parking lot deal some sort of art installation. I think that would be badass.
Yeah, I'm with Brent. You cut out the middleman. You just drive straight into the stadium and watch the game from the comfort of your own car. what else
baseball game. Yeah.
It'll be new at least. I don't know if it'll be advisable, but it'll be new.
Yeah, hey, so hopefully they're taking notes here. We'll see if they follow up with it. We will be making sure we get those royalties, that's for sure. In the meantime, guys, thanks for this. It was a lot of fun today.
Thanks, Jesse.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. Appreciate it.
That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our free morning newsletter as well. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm/Las Vegas. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Until then, though, take care.